It's YouTube's coming. Oh yeah, we're there. We're there. All the places.
Awesome.
Or we'll be there. Well, happy Thursday. Does anyone have anything that cool happened this week or bad happened or all of those things? Okay. Well, I see a couple of familiar faces, and I know one of those familiar faces will appreciate the call today because I owe them the rest of this detail. So if you're listening, you'll know who you are once we start talking. So I'm just gonna wait. And if you guys have questions, especially for that the coaching section that happens at the end of this call, feel free to post those questions in the chat and say like, hey, I have a Q&A, like put Q&A in the front of it and we'll be able to see it like that it's for the coaching session. And we love to invite you guys to unmute and join and really solve the problems that you're facing this week, right? So we have the topic, all of those things that we come with every week. But if you have a different problem, I'm sure you want that solved too. So feel free to go ahead and post that in the chat as we go this morning. All right, so I have, this book was really popular, especially back in like the 2014 era. It was really popular back in 2014. So the book of the day is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I'm gonna get you guys a picture of it if you're curious of what book I'm talking about. I share my screen. But here's what the book looks like. It's This 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And I'm gonna put the link to it in the chat. Guys, when I read this book, it kind of broke me. And I started getting into the e-commerce space. So like the second half of the book is all about e-commerce and really delegating like your e-commerce business so you can really, not be checked in to life and have this business running itself. So he really gets into like, so the second half of the book is like really how to e-commerce the 4-Hour Workweek. But the first part of the book is really about delegating and how to delegate. And it's really a mindset shift that occurred for me for sure. When I read it, now I was still working full time when I read this, and his whole premise is, yeah, if you're working full time, this is how you do it. But because I was working at CPA firms, this would not have been kosher at all to do in a CPA firm with the security and the requirements there. But I started, like, it really set the tone as I tried out business and did different things, like tried Etsy, tried this thing. It really set the tone to how I approached it. So then when I finally gave in, feels like finally gave in to the Lord saying, do the bookkeeping thing. Again, I wasn't aware of the online space, everyone doing a bookkeeping business type thing. I just had the background and the skill set to do it, and I had people asking for it. But I was too scared to like say, yes, I'm gonna do your bookkeeping. So I went and secretly started my bookkeeping business and then kind of let them know about it. So I think this is a good read. You can buy the book. It's really tiny. Audible is a great way to listen to it. I find the first half of the book helpful. I find the second half of the book really boring. So if you don't read it all, I will not come after you. So I did just share that link. I just think it's a really good like mindset shift if you're having trouble delegating. And guys, delegating does not have to be to a person. It can be to a software. So you guys have heard me talk about Walmart and having like one of my team members will occasionally hit like submit for me. We don't do that as much anymore. We tried it. It was one of those exercises in like, can I make this happen? And then I realized Walmart has a subscribe option. So you could subscribe to like things that you buy every week. So bananas, things like that, and it will be delivered every week. So I'm going to try that out in the future. But as the summer got kind of crazy, I was like, oh, we're just going to pause on the whole Walmart order thing. So she's done it a couple of times, but I probably need to subscribe to bananas so my children don't go without bananas because they think the world is ending if there are no bananas. Anyway, so food for thought. So it could be as simple as using Zapier to delegate a task or setting up a rules to shorten the task. There's different ways that you can shorten how you do things. So just wanted to leave some encouragement there if you feel like, oh, hey, I'm just starting my business. I don't have money to delegate. Sometimes we can purely practice delegating by evaluating, is this necessary? Is it required? Some things aren't as required as we think they are. We'll set up, sometimes in our overwhelm, we'll set up like a dashboard of like, okay, I'm going to set this dashboard so I know exactly where everything's at, know where everything's coded, all of those things. And then it gets really hard to keep up with. And all you've done is just giving yourself another to-do. So be mindful of giving yourself more to-dos in an effort to simplify and stay on top of things. I would much rather see you simplify the process, simplify how you're doing stuff, than give yourself another to-do to make something bigger, better, all of those things. For example, as I say that, what comes to mind is I used to, and I have the Canva document in the Bookkeeper Blueprint if you want it. I used to use Canva to recreate financial statements for my clients. And these financial statements, I actually really loved giving my clients because it was very similar to that of not what we did in the CPA firm, but the information that I knew the clients needed in terms of a summary of here's what changed in your business. Because yeah, they see the financials, but that like reading the financials can be really hard for a business owner. So I analyzed their financials. It also gave me a really good opportunity to re-review their financials to see if there was anything abnormal. You can do this by doing the percentage change, a dollar change when you do your review in QBO. But this really made me like stop and think, what are your key metrics? So it listed the key metrics. It gave them a summary of, hey, your payroll expenses went way above 20%. So like whatever our threshold on that percent change was, I would highlight those items. Hey, this went over. So it was very much like I was doing in corporate, very much like I was doing at the CPA firms when it comes to analyzing the financials and then giving them the financials in language that they understood. It still had all the financials in there. And if you want to see that template, it is inside the Bookkeeper Blueprint. It's yours. You can make it, tweak it for you. But then when I got Keeper, I decided it wasn't worth the time to keep doing that because it would take me about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how complicated their financials were. And I had just taken on some clients who really didn't need that type of financials. They were CPAs or whatnot, and they didn't need me to analyze their financials. And the smaller clients, it was nice, but it wasn't like the crux of them running their business. So it wasn't essential that I spent 5 hours a month preparing these reports for clients, and I would just start pushing out Keeper reports. So that's just an example of sometimes we do something that's really cool, really nice. Like guys, if a client needed it, I would do it 100. I would absolutely do it. I would charge for it, but I would do it because I think it's really helpful. If they're going to look for it, use it, and it's going to help them move their business forward. My clients at that point in time were not utilizing it the way that they could be utilizing it, or they were at a point in time, like in their life where they didn't need that tool. Like they were beyond that tool. So I was able to just eliminate that process altogether. And Tim Ferriss talks about just eliminating. What can you eliminate? What can you scale back? So I wanted to share that with you. But today we're going to take the 4-hour work week kind of on paper form. What does this look like if we wanted to start hiring? But I'm going to take it all the way back to, let's say you're a new business, because a lot of you on here are new bookkeepers, fairly, maybe under 3 to 5 clients right now. So how do we start to get the business to where we want? And then once it's there, how can we start to pull ourselves back and say, hey, team member, I'm going to hire someone to do this. And I saw, guys, I should go see if I can find this again. Jetpack Workflow is another accounting workflow system that I was considering right before I purchased Keeper. The only reason I didn't purchase like Carbon or Jetpack Workflow was because they charged per user. And I needed several users in it at that point in time, season in my business. So I had multiple contractors working for me. And $200 a month, $100 a month really added up over the $10 a month that I was going to be paying for Keeper. So for me, it made sense to pass that fee along to my clients. So I switched to Keeper instead. But Jetpack Workflow has a YouTube channel. And there is another accountant, bookkeeper, who was working about, she doesn't have a coaching program or anything like that. She was just getting on and talking about how she used Jetpack Workflow to really actually do the 4-hour work week, because she was running another business and she was taking care of her family. And so her accounting business still stayed because she had a full-time manager, and that manager and her would meet once a week. They would go over stuff. She would get some dashboards from that team member. She would review them and move on with her life. So just want to encourage you, it is possible. You'll see in my own business, if you were to pull back the curtains, how little I work in my business now than I used to. Now, some of that's because I did put in a lot of time to set up the systems to really get to know my clients, to find good clients. I had to let go of a lot of bad clients. And I am really ruthless now with bad clients. And I say that kind of brokenheartedly. I'm letting a client go today or tomorrow because of boundaries and just what I will and won't tolerate, and knowing that. It's always sad to let a client go, especially when you think you can help them. But if the personalities aren't meshing, if there's something else going on, if whatever the reason is that you've decided, hey, if this happens, these are my requirements, I'm going to disengage, then disengage with a client. I can tell you, like, now that 2 years after, I let go of a lot of just bad clients that I had acquired over the years, or clients that, like, you could never do something right, or just were snoot. Like, guys, I've been watching dad chats on TikTok, and he uses, his wife, mom chats, uses the word snot. And I'm like saying, if they're being a snot, then get rid of them. That's okay. Your business forward will be better. You will get better clients, and you will be able to see those red flags sooner. Because sometimes I'm just like, oh, I want to help you. That's not necessarily always the best mindset to have. No snots allowed. Michelle got it. I don't know. I just heard it so many times this week because I was like binge watching them, like trying to figure out, like, how are you guys so funny on TikTok? Anyway, so no snots allowed. Let them go. Okay. With that said, I have a spreadsheet, and if you guys are like me, y'all love spreadsheets. So I have a spreadsheet for you. It's not yet ready to share with you guys, as far as, like, I can't give you like the actual access to the template, but feel free to take a screenshot or all of those things. Megan, anything you want to add on any of this? I just started talking.
No, I don't believe so. Go for it.
Happy Thursday. It's already been a really busy Thursday. Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen. Any questions before I get on? Has anyone read 4-Hour Work Week? Love it, hate it? Feel free to let me know. I at first, like, the first time I read it, I really kind of discarded it because I was like, oh, that's e-commerce. It was very interesting to me. I I did have to go back, and I think I've reread it like 3 or 4 times over the years. And now I don't think it's like that worthy of like, you have to read this book every year. I wouldn't put it on that category. But if you get stuck on delegating, I would go back to that or Clockwork. Since I found Clockwork, I kind of go back to Clockwork first with Mike Michalowicz, but 4-Hour Workweek is a really simple, short way to kind of get yourself back to the mindset of, okay, what am I doing here? I didn't want a job. I wanted a business. Okay. I am showing you it is a fake, but combines multiple businesses together of what me and Megan have seen with bookkeeping businesses. So edited, this isn't from any specific business, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's not mine. I do want to disclose that it's not mine, but it's average of what we've seen other bookkeeping businesses have. So I have named this business Bookkeeping Business with Goals LLC, because that felt relevant. So a couple of categories you might have in your business would be cleanups. So here it's called bookkeeping backwork. Your bookkeeping services, this is your monthly bookkeeping rate. You might have commissions and affiliates. So some of you guys are subscribed to CPG or Complete Business Group, and you guys get your QuickBooks files from there. I also just got a payment from QuickBooks for revenue share because I'm switching over to revenue share from more of my clients that are coming on now. That would go here. Amazon affiliates, Bill.com affiliates, credit card, bank affiliates, like that type of earnings. Legal services. I don't know if any of you file LLC documents or amendments for your clients using someone like CorpNet or something like that. That would go here. Sales of product income I included because some of you guys want to sell like a course or a download or a printable, a template, something like that. That goes obviously here. So make sure you're including that. So this bookkeeping business with goals did about 122,000. And some of that was money. So cost of goods sold, they're paying for some of their client subscriptions. I don't recommend doing this if you can have a client pay for their own subscription, because if a payment fails, if they disengage, like I just feel like that's more work than I want to do. For me, I like to run a very simple minimalist business. So I don't enjoy having either of these. Software subscriptions could be like something like LedgerSync, who came on to talk about if you're having trouble accessing clients' banks. LedgerSync is a great way to do that because there's 2 different ways integration works. LedgerSync uses the other one. So it's super helpful for that if you have a client that's doing that. Direct compliance costs could be you paid for an annual report or something like that, that you're like the cost of filing these legal services. Okay, and then expenses. You're obviously going to have some expenses. You should not have a ton of expenses being a service-based bookkeeping business. The most of this business had was contractors, virtual assistants, things like that, and then advertising. Office supplies, you really don't have to have those. I forget what was in there. Business platforms and subscriptions would be things like Keeper. You could move Keeper, the cost of Keeper, up to cost of goods sold. I don't recommend that because it is optional. So cost of goods sold would be like, in order to even have this service exist, right? To even offer the service. So for like legal services, to even have that exist, you have to file, like pay the filing costs. To even be able to do the client's bookkeeping in QuickBooks, because they're using QuickBooks, you have to have that. Keeper feels like optional internal to me. So I put it down in subscriptions. So anyway, here is just a P&L of a basic business doing about 120,000 a year. with under 20 clients. So this one has under 20 clients was kind of the math we did. And your take home would be about 50%. So just less than 50% because your goal is to not work as much as you would at a full-time job. So that is the premise behind this P&L. Does that make sense as far as the premise of where we're headed? So this is where we're headed. Something along the lines of this. Rent and lease could be if you rent a post office box for your address instead of having your address on Google My Business and all the things. Merchant fees could be like Stripe, things like that, QuickBooks payments fees. You can combine some of those. So anyway, that's the bookkeeper's P&L. So how do we start to get there? Let's say we're starting next month. This month, we don't have a client. Okay, we don't have a client this month. Let me make sure I'm still sharing Folio. So we're going to get our first client next month. We seem to find that new bookkeepers really are attracted to the number 300. So whether it comes up in another group or someone's calculator, 300 is kind of like the base we're seeing a lot of bookkeepers start at. So I used it here as like your first client. Let's say it's 300. If you need help with quoting, don't forget you can get on our co-working calls. We have a calculator. We have an Excel calculator. You can put in the client's information. And you can also tweak it to like your preferences. So if you have a minimum of you don't want a client below $750 a month, you can tweak it for that. So I just did this in a very simple way. You know, that client's going to pay us $300 a month for a whole year. So if we start in August, we're going to take this through a whole 12 months frame. And here we're just going to add one client a month. Some of you will add 2 or 3 to 4 clients a month, and that is great. For this calculation, I didn't want to overwhelm any of you, so I did 1 client a month for the next 12 months at various rates, various sizes. All of this is designed to be basic bookkeeping in order to help you reach the goal of working 4 to 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, whatever it is you want to do. So I wouldn't take on a lot of payroll and AP, AR. If you could avoid it, you might decide you want fewer than, so we have 12 clients here, is how I ran this, but maybe you want fewer clients. Maybe you want 8 to 10 clients. Then you might want to target clients who you're doing full service bookkeeping for. Okay, so our average client is $720 a month if you were to take all of these at the end. I did do a $2,500 client. The kicker there is they just have class tracking, multiple accounts to reconcile. So one bank account for each class, and just a high volume of transactions. They're not complicated. They just have a lot of transactions. It takes you about five hours a week to do their bookkeeping. So at this, I can tell you, if this is just basic bookkeeping and you were to hire a full-time person at, call it $2,400 a month, or whatever that is for you in your area, how you decide to do it, they might still be bored with this workload. So you might get away with hiring someone at 30 hours a week for this workload. Because here we're saying it should take about 30 hours a week, like 90 hours a month. $22 hours a week. So that'd be coding, doing transactions, stuff like that. You'll notice I did not put in any cleanup into any of this. I would expect some of these clients to have cleanups. Me and Megan, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you just had to step away, so I'll repeat and give you the opportunity to correct me. But I know when I started, cleanups were bonus. I did not anticipate, I did not budget for, I did not expect cleanups from clients. Obviously, if you're like, hey, August, and I'm going to absolutely review January through July, because I'm doing December, so I'm going to absolutely charge you. Some bookkeepers do charge. So if you come to the mid-year, they're going to charge you for the rest of the year either way. You could do that. Megan, I was just saying, I didn't include cleanups here in this math model because I didn't like count on cleanup income. It was like bonus income if I got it.
Correct. Yeah.
I thought that's
Yep.
what you did too. So for sure, like does cleanup income get you closer to a six-figure income quicker? Absolutely. But I wanted to show you how this is on target to hit six figures. And if you're using something like Profit First, if you're doing all of the work, you're working 20 hours a week, give or take, maybe 25, if you round up, because you also have emails, you also have marketing, things like that. So that's probably 30 hours a week if you're doing all of the work yourself. And not doing any cleanups. So like it's very straightforward bookkeeping. All of this can be very straightforward bookkeeping. You're at a six-figure income, and if you were to do something like Profit First, you're taking home 50,000 a year. That might look like you have a distribution set up for yourself or payroll, or however, if you decide to be an S corp. This might be on the smaller side of becoming an S corp because you're not taking home six figures. You're grossing six figures under this scenario. So if you're paying for subscription costs, if you've got a lot of overhead, if you're doing a lot of paid marketing for some reason, or if you're addicted to continuing education. Like I just had a client who I'm like, you're spending all your money on continuing education. Stop doing that. Like literally all of her money was just going back out the door. Like you're not making any money. So if you have that addiction, you have my permission to curb it just a little bit, just a little bit. Or let us know like where you're stuck, and we can kind of point you in the right direction. So here it might be taking a monthly distribution of 3,000 a month. Some of that's going to be reimbursements. If you're doing any sort of tax strategy, maybe you're paying your kids to do your own receipts and shredding paper, like my daughter just now started doing for me. All of those things can help put more money back in your pocket. But then year two, so if we say the next 12 months, I hid this for you. So next 12 months, August to July, right? You will now have made, and I really feel like I messed some sort of calculation up, but it's about $101,000 for the year. So you're on pace. So if you're continuing to add a client a month, that would help replace any client that left. And so that can ebb and flow as you go. But I think that's a really good spot to be. You're at 12 clients mentally, I find manageable for most bookkeepers. When you start getting to 30, 40, 60, 80, which I have seen bookkeepers in our program do, I've seen our coaches do, that's a lot to manage. I am very minimalistic, simple-minded in terms of what I can manage. So I do not like the mental load of managing more than 30 clients for myself. But I've discovered that. I used to say I want, what did I used to, like when I first started, it was like 30 clients paying me $300 a month because that was 9,000 a month. Well, basic bookkeeping, 3 hours, 3 hours a month. My problem was I kept under quoting my clients at that and trying to force them into like a $300 bucket when they were maybe $750 and just were price sensitive. So note that, have permission to quote what they are because you only need 12. So to get one client, I'm going to add another little, now, if you're in Cameron's program, he will tell you 1 + 1 is not 2 in marketing, and he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Okay. And I know he has his own model as well. Here's the one I've used since the beginning of my business, because this is what worked for me when I had conversations. If I had about 100 like business owner conversations. So someone who was saying, hey, I need bookkeeping, and I had some sort of interaction with them, or they knew other people who needed bookkeeping. So out of those 100 just kind of loose conversations of like interactions around bookkeeping, if I got 10 of those on some sort of sales call or sales conversation, because that can be through text, it could be through Facebook, DMs. You can sell through DMs. Megan sells through DMs, I think, all the time. Did you guys all notice I misspelled that? Next one. 5 of them are going to actually get into like a sales call. Like I'm going to actually send an engagement letter to them, because some of them they're not going to, you don't provide the service that they need. Maybe you don't provide accrual. Well, they needed bookkeeping, so they were talking to you, but you're like, hey, I don't do accrual, or I don't do nonprofits, or, oh, you have this really complicated thing that I just don't have the bandwidth to even think about right now. You're out. So I'm going to send 5 engagement letters. Out of that, I think your close rate is going to be higher than this, especially if you look at a 6-month period. But let's say on the spot, in the first like 7 days, you're going to have 1 person out of those 5 sign. And if your average is $720 per client, which was based on, remember our client workload right here? We selected all of these. The average was like $704. Yeah. So maybe change that. Okay. So then, are you looking for 10,000 a month? Maybe you are. So you need 14 clients. So now you need all of this times 14. And you'll be about 800 a month. You'll have 14 clients. You'll have had 70 sales calls over a 12-month period, or whatever period you're looking to fill this in. So that's only 10 sales calls or conversations. You need 10 people to say, hey, I'm actually really interested in bookkeeping. Handing off my bookkeeping. You need 5 people to physically get on a Zoom or a phone call, or like really let you send an engagement letter. You only need to send 5 a month. And the more hot leads that you get, like we have someone in the group right now who she's almost replacing a retiring bookkeeper in her community, because she started having real conversations. She had started having these conversations, and that led her to she's like the new person that's replacing this retiring bookkeeper. So she's the go-to, because there's also a known bad bookkeeper. So she's being shouted out, referred to like crazy. And this is going way up. Whether or not she's pushing it or not, she's not. She's just showing up. So this is taking off for her. If you've read the book Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz, he shares a podcast example where, and you can look up this bookkeeper too if you read the book. She's on YouTube. She talks about it. She talks about how she used Clockwork in her business as well. Different than the Jetpack Workflow bookkeeper. And she niched. She had a niche. She got on a podcast to talk about how bookkeeping is important to that niche, because the podcast actually reached a targeted audience whose trusted authority was leading the podcast. She had an overflow of people contact her. They actually had to email people and say, hey, we did not expect this response. Just wanted to let you know this isn't exactly how she said it. So read the book, you can get the exact quote on how they emailed all of these people. But in essence, it was, hey, our average bookkeeping rate is about $850 a month. If you're okay with that, you can book a call here or fill out this application here or whatever they did as the next step. But then they weeded people out based on price. So stepping into opportunities where you can get in front of audiences, get in front of podcasts or groups or people of authority regarding people you want to serve. Guys, this could be your church. And having an elder, a deacon, or a pastor believe in what you're doing. And when someone comes to them, hey, my business is just, I'm stuck, it's chaotic, I owe a large tax bill, whatever, you being the go-to to say, yes, I can help you. I can check for bookkeeping errors. I can see like, oh yeah, you have a bookkeeping error. Like I took on someone's books back in October and we did not get the opportunity to do January through September like review because the books were locked. We couldn't get the password. So we did do the review. We had to make changes like in October, November as we found them. And then we actually did. So I do a few tax returns a year. So we did their tax return and we found an error in 2022 as we were trying to do beginning balances on the tax return. It actually got them a refund. It was like 35 to 40,000 in refund, and then a lower than anticipated tax bill this year, which the tax bill was even originated because of like how they paid that tax bill the previous year. So you can often pay for yourself when it comes to bookkeeping. You just need trusted people who believe in you. They're people of authority, and you want to find like 5-10 people who can be like your biggest cheerleaders. They have an audience, they're connected, they do a magazine for your audience, they run a YouTube channel for your audience, they run a radio show, they're really big in a supporter of the community. Maybe they work at somewhere that's going to really encounter business owners who are struggling. Bankers are these people, financial planners are these people, tax preparers are these people, loan officers, small business loan officers are these people, and they're running into business owners who they can't approve for a loan because their bookkeeping is struggling. Their bookkeeping isn't caught up. Their bookkeeping is a mess. They don't have a balance sheet or whatever it is. You can be the go-to. You can be the problem solver of those things. Okay. Well, I see we're at the 40-minute mark. And so we typically open this up for Q&A and coaching if you need help in your bookkeeping business. But any feedback on this? Was this helpful to see of how this all comes together? Was it too like unrelevant because you're just not there yet? Does one client a month feel just impossible? Let me take a temperature read, see how you guys are doing. Okay, cool, yeah. Well, so some of you are going to want to do all of the work yourself. That was me when I started. Well, actually, it wasn't when I started, but I did do all the work myself. I did not want to start the business alone. I actually tried to start my business with a partner. So I was like, I've got 2 little ones. How am I gonna do all the work myself? But I did do all the work myself. And I did anywhere from 12 to 20 clients myself. I did, though, as soon as I went on maternity leave, I did start outsourcing. There was immediately like I had under 5 clients and I had gotten just a cleanup job come to me, and I immediately outsourced that job. Immediately outsourced it. I think I spent 2 hours all said and done on it. So I don't think it's ever too early to start delegating work, as long as you understand what needs to be done and how to get there. As long as you understand the work, you can delegate the work. Absolutely. Okay, any questions as we enter this time of just coaching? Or can I go deeper into something for you guys?
Everybody's quiet today.
Yeah, everybody got quiet. Someone private messaged me. I'm answering their question real quick, and my calendar got full. So, um, it was like I did some edits yesterday, and like everyone jumped in on it yesterday. I was like,
They
oh,
were waiting on it.
waiting on it, so it's fully good. So that was the question I was just answering. So I think I'm trying to open it on Saturday, but I've got to confirm something before I open it on Saturday. So, and then it should be open. It's already almost August. It should be open the last week of July again too. It just might not be open on Calendly yet. Okay. Julio. Okay. Does this seem possible to you guys? Does this feel tangible? I'm so curious on y'all's feedback of, is this helpful? Is stuff like this helpful to show you guys? Okay, cool. I'm really glad it was helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can add to you guys right now. Because I know like this also feels probably really lofty of like, could I ever get there? For those of you that just responded, do you guys see yourself always doing the work, or is there any part of you that like wants to delegate so that you're, so instead of like creating your own job, which is okay, totally okay to do, because you will make more money doing that and working, and you can streamline it and stuff like that. So just because you have 40 hours of work, quote unquote, it could take you shorter times. And there's some hacks that some of the bookkeepers do to make it shorter if they're doing all the work themselves. Michelle says, I want to delegate as much as possible. Michelle, totally possible. We have tried so many different ways of delegating, in terms of like, I have hired people for just 2 hours a week to do different things, or Megan used, I think she still does, like 30% or 10% for reconciling, 10% for coding, 10% for reviewing. I struggled with that personally because I would give them the 30%, not realizing they couldn't really do a good review on it. But like my heart was like, oh, I need to pay you well for doing this. So for me, I have now transitioned to just a full-time person coding. The risk there is if she were to leave, I have to find another full-time person and then like bring them up to speed. So I'm very conscious with this particular employee of documenting, keeping things as organized as possible, and she's really good at all of that. So I'd be sad if she ever left, but that would be a risk, is now I'm relying on one employee. I still have two other contractors that work in addition to her, that I'm sure she'll take over eventually. Absolutely. I would say grow a team slowly. I hire quickly and fire quickly. I used to do that very slowly. I now do it a lot quicker. Absolutely. We have a lot of people that come through here who want a legacy business. I myself, I don't know that my kids would take over my bookkeeping business per se. But I know I have my 6-year-old has wanted to own an ice cream shop since she was like 2. So, um, and maybe one of them will take over my businesses. I just don't feel like my businesses are like something that they really want to take over and retire, like, do yet, but maybe one day. Um, that's my imposter syndrome talking here. My own. Actually, that's not a thing. We're not allowed to say that anymore. Jennifer Allwood said we're not allowed to say imposter.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Um, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, is there anything that we can um yeah, absolutely. Um those with accounting degrees, it's just a matter of learning QuickBooks or whatever software your clients are using for sure. Oh, whoops. Sorry, Megan, causing problems.
No, you're good.
I was really excited at how excited my own daughter, now she's 6, so not adult daughters at this point. She got really excited about scanning receipts. Um, just so excited that she could do it. And she wants to buy, I've been decluttering, so we pulled out like a box and found some stuff that the kids liked. And one of them a year ago had bought this like crown, really nice, like handmade crown. And my oldest daughter was like, "Oh, I want to buy. Why didn't I buy one?" Like last year, just like, "I want to buy one." But they were like $30 crowns. They were super expensive, and so she got really excited about scanning and doing receipts for me again in my business, so I can pay her. Oh, absolutely. It's a great work from home. So when I had little ones, I remember I worked a lot between like 8 and 10 p.m. Um, they're like 3 nights a week, was how I grew my business. And then I did marketing during the day. Just my role was when their eyes are closed, their eyes are closed. Um, hasn't always did the same, but oh, cool. Well, this was fun. I really do hope that was helpful to see that it is possible to hit 6 figures without having a ton of clients, or needing 30 clients even. And really don't let, I put a couple of big numbers in there, 2,500 and like 1,700 in there. That comes from my own experience of having multiple clients that fit those 2 categories, that they're really simple to do. It's just a lot of volume. And so if you're in there every couple of days just coding, you really stay on top of it, and it is not that big of a deal. It just takes more time on a monthly basis. Now, obviously, some people are like, "Hey, I don't want that big of a client because what if they leave? Then I'm out 2,500, I'm out 1,700." Um, I can tell you both of the clients that I have that fit those categories, 2 of the 3 have had their previous bookkeeper was with them for 10 years before they came to me. So I'm not super worried that they're just going to leave on a whim. And then the other client that's in that category, I think the bookkeepers and their staff that they've hired keep leaving them. So I'm not necessarily worried about being let go unless they make some internal change, and that could happen. Absolutely could happen. Um, Tracy, what are you doing right now for marketing? Can you remind me what you're doing for marketing? And you can just type it, or you can feel free to unmute. Okay, I would just do something. I would just start talking to people. I wouldn't worry about what are you doing for marketing. I would see how can we have those conversations. And I know 100 seems like a lot. 100 is just to say, like, have I gotten in front of enough people? You might talk to 5 people and get 5 sales calls and 1 client. That's where 1 + 1 does not equal 2 in marketing. You might talk to 20 people and get a client. So I would just focus on talking to people, whether it's online, in groups, or we were talking like farmers markets and things like that. Did you get to go to a farmers market or like a shop like that? So when I started, I did not have people to go talk to. Like I had Facebook, but I was not getting out of the house. Someone was always napping at that point in time. So there was no getting out of the house to talk to people. There was no going to networking events. I didn't even know online networking events really existed at that point in time. So I did go to Upwork. So Upwork, Thumbtack. I didn't go anywhere with Thumbtack, and I didn't stay on it. We had another student who was with us about a year. She had a lot of success on BART. It cost her a lot more money. At the end of the day, I think it cost her about the same, but she did have to spend more money up front. Whereas Upwork, I didn't have to spend as much money up front. And considering I was like bootstrapping the business and having the business pay for itself, like I invested $500, and like if it flopped, I was just going to be out the $500. So I did that to get around not having people to talk to, because then they were able to say, hey, I need a bookkeeper. And I was able to say, hey, you said you need this. This is how I could do that for you. So I have tried to hire off of Indeed, and it did always frustrate me that I was finding bookkeepers who were growing their own bookkeeping business. So I wound up not hiring a full-time person off of Indeed. So I would just pay attention to like what they're looking for. I think you'll have less, your percentage might go down on Indeed if someone's really looking for that employee, but absolutely you can serve people who are looking for a full-time staff as their outsourced accountant. So absolutely. Teresa says, I've gotten a couple of clients on Thumbtack, but it does cost a little bit. Yeah, Thumbtack does cost as well. Because Thumbtack, you have to pay for like to respond to them or something like that. And then Upwork, you have to pay for like connects to even bid. And I don't boost, but feel free to try it out for yourself. So every time I got on Upwork, so I did it every day, and I had specific goals. Like I need to respond to 3. When I started, it was like 3 to 5 people a day I needed to answer or respond to or like bid on, right? So new people, 3 to 5 people a day. When I was scaling it and I was looking for 3 clients a month, I did about 20 a day. 10 to 20, as many as I possibly, like 20 was my max, but as many as I possibly could. Some days there just weren't 20. And then Upwork also, the quality has come down a little bit. So you're gonna have to play with it, watch for spam. Spams have always existed on Upwork. You'll be able to tell them if they're looking for you to get on Upwork, WhatsApp or Telegram. If they're at all looking for you to add in something outside of Upwork, then they're probably a spam. So when I started, I didn't know all the things. I registered as a freelancer. You can now register as an agency if like you want to lead with your team is doing it. I was the only one doing the work at the time, so I was a freelancer and had lots of success just being a freelancer. So it was myself, for sure. You don't need a website. You should be able to get a business bank account for free. Mine's free. I don't have any monthly fees or any setup fees for mine. Absolutely. So, mine's Axos. It's an online bank. But also credit unions, my old credit union, although I still have them as a credit union, but when I had a business bank account with them for a different business a long time ago, I didn't need anything. No, I didn't need, I think I deposited 1,000 because I had a purchase, but there wasn't like a minimum or like you don't have to keep it a minimum in it. Like you can have $0 in it, and I don't think that was the requirement. I think I just did it because I had to purchase desktop for one of my clients. Don't purchase desktop for your clients. So I mean, you also get what you pay for. So their support can be a little funky sometimes. And you're always going to be talking to someone in India, but it's completely online. And again, I was setting mine up in COVID, had 2 young kids, and I was not about to put a mask on them to, I had 2 under 2. So I wasn't about to put a mask on them to go sit in. And I was pregnant. So trying to do all of that wasn't going to happen during that time. Axos Bank. I'll type it into the chat. You do need your EIN, your operating documents, things like that to set up a business bank account. So Upwork, I did invest in. I did pay the $15 a month, and then I think I bought it. I really didn't do a ton. So $15 a month allowed me to do like the 3 to 5 a day. But yeah, you really don't like, your business should be as free as possible. Megan started with a Gmail account. You'll get a lot of mixed opinions if you go to Facebook, so don't do that. You can start with the Gmail account to make money online. You can upgrade to Google Workspace later. I started with my Gmail, I guess, technically. I think I quickly kind of moved over, but it was after my business could pay for it. So like I didn't pay for those things out of pocket. I did put some money into the account to start the business account. But like I took out all of the money I put into it within like a 90-day period because I couldn't afford to like keep money in the business. Like it needed to pay for itself at that point in time. So it was like, I think my husband, so you know that there's like, if you're paid every 2 weeks during the year, you get like 2 bonus paychecks. It seems like 2 extra paychecks if you're living monthly. I technically used like one of those paychecks to like help with it. But then like one of my clients actually paid for my LLC setup, and I just had a lot of like, I just started putting myself out there and things started working. I think that will be true for you as well. An LLC you can file for yourself for free too. They don't find it professional. But who are you serving? Are you serving another small business owner who's been in your shoes before? Probably. So I wouldn't worry about it. Like my Upwork is through SH Stack, like my personal email. So I didn't even create an email for my business. I used my personal email altogether. Megan had the wherewithal to create a different email with her business name altogether. So, I mean, your first 3 clients shouldn't care. Your first 3 projects won't matter. Your goal is to get money in the door. You can always set up the LLC. You can always set up, technically, if you wanted, you don't even have to set up an LLC or a business bank account. You could finish out the year as a sole prop using your personal bank, using your Gmail, technically. Does it open you up to some liability? Yes. But if you're getting accountant read-only access, like You're not doing taxes, you're not doing payroll, you're not filing sales tax, you're just recording some stuff in QuickBooks Online. Like, your goal is to go make money. Oh, right, you did do, I forgot we talked about that. So I mean, if the extreme is go make money, worry about the legalese after. So you could file in 2023 as a sole prop on your Schedule C, and then 2024. I mean, you're going to do a DBA, so you have a DBA. So for the other person listening, who's if someone else is listening, then as of 2025, you could start your LLC, do the Gmail, because now you made money to support the business. And now you're a real business, and a real business in 2025 because you tested it out. But they'll have a whole new set of financials. So your financials will start in 2022 if you want those 2 years of financial statements, like cohesive financial statements. But I know when I started my business, it was just to make money. It wasn't like, let's start making money first and then see where we want to go with it. See if you like it. See if this works for you. Yep. So you probably want to do that at the year so that you have a clean break for financial statements, or you'll file 2 Schedule Cs, one with your sole prop, one with your LLC. So I would do it at the clean fiscal year if you can. So anyway, well, I see that we're at time. I hope that was helpful in just terms of getting started. But I also know you're job searching too. You might find, if you're talking to temp agencies, that you've got a bookkeeping business, that you're wanting to do bookkeeping, you might be able to get a temp position in a company that could go full-time, but they might also be able to refer you business as a temp. In terms of like, oh, well, I can refer this person to you, and they can refer your business, your DBA, and you'll be their like interim bookkeeper until so-and-so comes back from maternity leave or whatever. And that would be a good way to get started too. Okay, coolio. Well, I will see you guys. Well, I will not see you guys next Thursday. Megan will see you guys next Thursday. So we'll announce all of those topics and things like that. But hopefully you guys are having a good summer. Good luck talking to people this coming week. Bye, guys.
Thank you.